continue developing our admin controller here and adding the ability to edit role names once roles are created. So we want to be able to change the name of a role, but not the ID, of course, because that we want to stay the same. So we can add a HTTP GET here and call it public async task iAction result and name it edit role. And we want to pass in a string of ID because our roles have an ID of type string. So we can actually check this if we do var role. We can do await role manager dot find ID find by ID async, and you can see that we pass in a string here. So we just pass in the ID, and if the role is null, we want to redirect this to an error page and display an error message. So we can write view data and call this error message and give it a value of no role with ID was found. And we can pass this one to we can return a view to a page that we can call error. So we need to create this error page here. And just add a view. Call it error. And we just want to put this error message as a variable. And we can come down here, put a h3, display the error message. And then we can say, click the button below to return to the home page. And here we can just make a button. Store controller, class, btn primary. Like that. Perfect. Save that and close it for now. So now we need to create a new view model. Here, just name it EditRole ViewModel. And this is because we want to be able to store the ID, the name, and all the users that exist within a role. So we'll just put a prop of string ID, a prop of string role name, and a prop of list of string, and this will be the users. And here we can just display name equals to role, and it's also required, and we can put the error message as role name is required. Okay, just save that. And back in the admin controller, we want to add a EditRole ViewModel model, and the ID will be the role.id, and the role name will be the role.name. So lastly, we just want to add to our model all the users that have the current role which we are editing. So for that, we will need to create a user manager, the same way we made a role manager. And just make sure that this one is using our default user, like that. And we want to just add it to our constructor. There we go. And with the user manager, we can access all the users that exist within our database. So if I make a for each loop here, userManager.users, and that will be access all the users. And if userManager dot is in role async, and then we use the user, the name of the role, and if that's the case, we just add to our model users.add user.username. And after that, we can just return view using our model. Before we go to add our views, we can just add the HTTP post for the edit role. And here we want to pass the EditRole ViewModel as the parameter. We want to get the role. ID. And we can copy this one, because you want the same check here. If it doesn't exist, we want to just send it to our error page. Model.id. Otherwise, we want to put the role.name to be the model.roleName, which is the new name we've given it. And we want to make the update and get the result from that. Like that. And if the result succeeded, we want to return redirect to action list all roles. And if it didn't succeed, then if you want to, you can add, using a for each loop, you can add all the errors that occurred in the result to the model state. Add model error and error dot description. And after that, just return the view using the model again. So let's go ahead and add our view for the edit role. And our model will be a BookStore .viewModels .EditRole ViewModel. And we can put the title to edit role. Just begin with the H1, edit role. And then we want to put a form with the method of post and a class of row. And I will start off by inserting a div, give it a class of mt3, margin top 3, and for it to use call for. And next to this one, I want to have another div using a class of call5. So what I'm going to do here is put the edit role portion in here, and right next to it, I'm going to put all the users that are currently in this role. So we can start off by adding this one. A form group, a row, and we want a label, class of call form label, and a call span of 2. Input, for ID, and we want this one to be disabled. So you can copy the ID, but you can't edit it. Form control, call 9, and P2. And I'm just going to put the font size of this one to be 0.9 EM. All right. Next up, another div. And this one will be for the role name. Form group of row. And a label. We can actually copy this one down here. Just put the role name in here. Same goes for the input. But we don't put the role name. We don't want this one to be disabled. And I want to remove the styling for it. And on this one, I'm going to put a span, which will be the ASP validation for role name with a class of text danger. Right? So here you can add, if you want to, a div of ASP validation summary of all class text danger. And what this one will do is it will display all the errors that you put into the model state right here. So we can see how that works in later when we try it out. So before we finish off this one, we just want to add another div, class of form group. And in here, I just want to add a anchor with ASP action for list all roles. Class btn warning. And I'm going to paste in a font awesome icon here and say back. And down here, I want to make a button of type submit. Class of btn success. I want to float it right. And add some margin. And this one I'll call update and paste in another font awesome icon. If I just go ahead and save this one, and we can go to our list all roles, and here in the edit one, we want to add any ASP action of edit role, ASP route ID with at role.id. If we save that one, we can just try it out and see how it looks right now. Come here, we need to go to the admin, list all roles. If I go to the edit button, it looks like this right now. So if I want to change the name of user to user1, do that. And now it's updated. Go edit and then edit it again. Change it back to user. And it works. So let's go ahead and display all the users within the current role. And here we can just add an h3 users with at model dot role name role. So it will say users with user role, for example. And we can make a table, class table striped, and a call 8. I'm gonna make a tr, and then here I'm gonna put an if statement, if model dot users dot any. I want to do something, else I just want to display a tr with a td class form label. No users with role name role. All right. So here in the if statement, I want to make a for each loop and var user in model dot users tr td class of form label and just pass the user. So just below the table here, I'm going to add a div. In here, I'm going to put a ASP route, ASP action of edit users in role. And we haven't created this action yet, but we can still route it. ASP route ID equals to at model.id class btn primary. And we can just call this one add/remove users in role. Close it off and save it. Here we can take a look at the final result, and it looks like this. And I see that it's a bit smushed together, so I'm actually going to go in here and add a empty div. All I'm going to do is give it a call of 1 and save it. So now we have a bit more spacing between here. Looks a bit more roomy. But that pretty much covers it for now. Just if one more thing, if you don't want to be writing admin/list_all_roles and whatever all the time, we can just come into the shared here and the layout. We can just copy this one, use the admin controller, list all roles, and call it roles. So if we say that, you see we have another button here, and it's called roles. So we can just press here to get into the roles menu. And I can just show you here what I was talking about earlier with all the errors being printed. So if I just remove this and try to update, you will see role name is required, and that's what we added in the model. Here, role name is required, the error message, and these two, role name is required and role name of nothing is invalid. That's what we get from the model state add error model here. So if we just go ahead and remove this, or if we in the edit role view just comment this one out and save it, you will see just that role name is required. So if I go back, try to edit now, update, so then I only get the error from the model. So that's it for now, and next time we'll be adding some users to our roles.